A man in Cape Town opens his laptop at the kitchen table. He's been told he's making money. The dashboard says so. The graphs climb. The numbers tick upward in real time. None of it is real. And by the time he realizes that, the people on the other end of the screen already know his name, his bank, and exactly how much he has left to lose. His name is Stuart Dayburn. He is one of thousands. The operation they all stumbled into has a nickname now. Investigators call it Scam Empire. And the word empire is not a metaphor. It had departments, it had managers, it had a legal troubleshooter, it had compliance theater, it had payment processors moving money across borders like any legitimate fintech. It had everything a real company has, except a real product. The pitch was simple. Online trading, Forex, crypto, the kind of platform that lives in pop-up ads and influencer captions. Click here, deposit a small amount, watch it grow. A friendly voice on the phone, walking you through your first trade. A second voice when the numbers get bigger. A third when you want to withdraw. That third voice is where the story turns. Because you don't withdraw, you never withdraw. By the time the dust began to settle, the estimated losses sat at around 120 million rand. Thousands of investors, pensions, inheritances, savings stripped quietly, transaction by transaction, until there was nothing left to take. But here's the part that doesn't sit right. A scam this large does not run on charm alone. It needs plumbing. It needs banks willing to open accounts. It needs payment service providers willing to process the deposits. It needs directors willing to put their names on company registrations. It needs lawyers willing to answer the phone when a victim threatens to go public. And somewhere, it needs someone who knows exactly how to make the money disappear. This is where the names start to appear. Gershon Bresler, described in the investigation as a legal troubleshooter. When victims got loud, when regulators started asking questions, when journalists came knocking, Bresler was the man who smoothed it over. Letters, threats, procedure, the polite machinery of intimidation. Edward Brovstein, an employee inside the operation, one of the people whose fingerprints sit on the day-to-day running of the machine. Muaz Raja, linked to Hampton Capital, one of the entities sitting in the financial pipeline that moved the money. And Dunstan Cornelissen, a director of Vector Financial Services, a company that, on paper, looked like any other small financial services provider in South Africa. A name on a CIPC document, a registration number, a bank account, a door through which other people's savings could walk out and never come back. None of these men on their own robbed anyone. That is the uncomfortable part. The fraud, viewed from any single desk inside the structure, looked like paperwork. An invoice, a transfer, a client onboarding form, a compliance tick. Each task small enough that the person doing it could go home, eat dinner, help with homework, and not feel like a criminal. Because technically, at their desk, they weren't. So who exactly committed the crime? The investigation by Amapungan traced the money through a maze of payment processors and intermediary accounts. Deposits from victims in South Africa, the UK, Europe, Australia, funneled through entities that knew or should have known that something was wrong. Volumes that didn't match the size of the businesses, patterns that didn't match the stated purpose, red flags that any first-year compliance officer is trained to spot, and yet the money kept moving. Why? Because every link in the chain was paid. Processing fees, service fees, directors' fees, legal retainers. The system was profitable for everyone, except the person whose savings were funding it. This is how money laundering at this scale actually works. Not in dark rooms, not in suitcases, in spreadsheets, in ordinary office parks, in emails that say things like, "Please confirm receipt and kind regards." There is a question the investigation keeps circling back to. How does a person become part of something like this? Do they wake up one morning and decide to defraud strangers? Or does it happen by degrees? A favor for a friend, a client who pays well and asks no questions, a second client, a third, until one day the entire firm exists to service something you've stopped asking questions about. The victims don't have the luxury of that ambiguity. Stuart Dayburn lost his money. Sumas Reynolds lost his money. There are thousands of others whose names will never appear in a headline. People who sent emails that were never answered, who called numbers that no longer worked, who watched a dashboard full of imaginary profit and slowly understood that the most expensive lie of their life had been a website. Some of them blamed themselves. That is the cruelest part of this kind of fraud. It is designed to make the victim feel stupid, to make them quiet, to make them carry the shame so the operators don't have to. But the operators were not geniuses. They were ordinary. That is what the documents show. Ordinary men in ordinary offices with ordinary lawyers running an extraordinary theft because the rails were available and nobody important stopped them. And that brings us to the part nobody wants to discuss. The banks, the payment processors, the regulators, the company registries. Every institution that exists in theory to prevent this was either too slow, too overwhelmed, or too uninterested. South Africa's financial system is not unique here. The same architecture that allowed Scam Empire to operate is the architecture quietly servicing the next one, right now, while you are watching this. So what happens next? The investigation is ongoing. No convictions have been recorded. No money has been publicly recovered. The named individuals, Bresler, Brofstein, Raja, Cornelissen, have not been brought to court on these allegations at the time of reporting. The companies in the chain continue to exist on paper. The victims are still waiting. And the dashboard that showed Stuart Dayburn his imaginary profits is offline now, replaced somewhere else by another dashboard, another friendly voice, another first deposit. The question is not whether Scam Empire was a crime. It plainly was. The question is why a system this sophisticated, banks, regulators, directors, lawyers, compliance officers, was so easy to walk through, and who exactly we are protecting when we keep calling that a failure instead of a feature.